I have been working in the field of autism for over 20 years, and within that time I have seen so many changes, particularly around how we view autism and how autism impacts on the lives of people with autism. And the thing that has really changed our thinking about autism is that more and more people are beginning to tell us about their autism and how it affects them. So, in the past, we have often been told that children with autism need to make eye contact. So we were told to encourage those children with autism to look at us, to maintain that eye contact. But actually, because people with autism have told us that this hurts and that they find it very, very difficult, it's changed our practice, it's changed our way of thinking. So now, because of what they've said and we've listened, we now no longer encourage children to look us directly in the eyes. And it's made us very aware that people with autism find that very difficult. Another thing that has changed our thinking about autism is more and more people with autism telling us that they view the world differently to us and that they think differently to us. And thank goodness that there are people who do think differently to us neurotypicals. Without the likes of Albert Einstein and Pete Mondrian, we would have a very different world, I think. But these people have told us that they do think differently and see the world differently. Temple Grandin has said that she's a visual thinker and that her brain is like Google Images. That means that Temple Grandin thinks in pictures. And this has helped us understand a lot more about people with autism. It's helped us to realise that a lot of people with autism are quite visual thinkers and that they need visual support in order to help them make sense of the world and to understand the things around them. This has had an impact on our practice. It's changed our way of looking at things and it's changed how we do things. So now we will be providing a lot more visual support for our pupils. And Lorraine, you're very lucky, will be talking about that a little bit later. So that's changed our practice. And in terms of, we now provide timetables, objects of reference, drawings, symbols, in order to encourage our young people and give them those opportunities to be able to understand the world a little bit differently. But one of the things that has really had a great impact on my practice, and the thing that people with autism have taught me, is do not underestimate them. And I think that this has had such a profound impact on me, and it's made me question myself and my practice. Am I doing the best that I can with the child that I'm working with? It's made me think that I mustn't underestimate our children. Jim Sinclair said, "No one guessed how much I understood because I couldn't say what I knew. And no one guessed the critical thing I didn't know, the one missing connection that so much else depended on. I didn't communicate by not talking, not because I was incapable of learning to use language, but because I simply didn't know that that was what talking was for." And the thing that struck me most about that was the fact that despite his intelligence, he didn't know that that was what talking was for. He didn't understand that because perhaps people hadn't explained that to him. Perhaps they thought, well, he doesn't talk, so he couldn't possibly understand. So people with autism have taught me to think outside the box, to try to give our pupils and our children opportunities for us to be able to think outside the box. And that has really, as I said, had an impact on me. It has made me question, am I underestimating the child that I am working with? And what could I do differently to provide opportunities for our children to demonstrate what they can and do understand? I have been surprised and continue to be surprised by what our children can do and by what they can understand. We all know that the characteristics of autism, we have the triad of impairments, the social, the thinking and learning, and the communication, and how these impact on our young people. We know this because that's what our young people and people with autism have told us. These are their areas of difficulty. And we also know that for a large proportion of our young people, sensory perceptual difficulties are also a huge factor. So we know all of this, and we know that we want to support our young people with autism to develop independence within their communication, within their socialization, their thinking and their learning, and their sensory regulation as far as possible for each person. That's our aim. That's what we want to do. But how are we offering, what are we doing to offer these opportunities to our young people? How are we beginning, how are we thinking outside the box in order for our young people to be able to show us what they can and do understand? If you have a look at the social aspect, what are we doing to encourage our children to be more sociable, to give them opportunities to show what they can understand? Very often, if we've taken a young person with autism, let's just say to a family gathering, and they go to that family gathering and realise that they're not enjoying it because it's too loud. But what we often do is that we give up, and we give up too soon on being able to say, we might just think, oops, they don't like it, so we're not going to do it again. But as Gina said last night, we need to try again and give our children the opportunities. If they fail, let's try again. Let's find a different way that we can make our children become more sociable. And one of the ways that we can make our children become more sociable is by offering an irresistible invitation to be sociable. By making our children realize that we are much more fun to be with than their preferred item of bashing stones together, lining up cars, or spinning the car's wheels. We need to be providing those opportunities so that our children can be more sociable. In terms of thinking and learning, what are we doing to encourage our children's thinking and learning? Very often, we make our children very prompt dependent by telling them what to do. How about maybe thinking about using a little bit more language to encourage them to think about what it is that they need to be doing? So instead of saying to them, Johnny, put on your coat, it's time to go out, maybe saying, oh, it's time to go out. I wonder what we need to go out. What do we need to put on before we go out? And providing them with problem-solving skills so that they're having to do that themselves instead of becoming so prompt dependent. In terms of communication, how are we enabling our young people to communicate more? I think the thing that people with autism have really taught me is that just because some of our children may not be able to speak, that does not mean that they cannot understand. And for me, that is absolutely crucial. We need to be offering our children a stimulating, rich, full language that we can enable them to be willing communicators, to be able to want to communicate with us. And then in terms of the sensory needs, we need to be able to offer them those sensory needs and opportunities to show us what they can do and what they can understand. So for me, it's about having high expectations of our pupils and of our young people. We must be providing them with the opportunities that they need in order to develop whole, holistic people. And for me, the quote by Temple Grandin that it's never too late to expand the mind of a person on the autism spectrum, I think that's crucial. have high expectations of our young people because they can achieve and they will achieve if only we give them the opportunities to do so. Thank you.